Hello, good morning. It is early October 2006, and in the background you can probably hear they're doing some freeway renovation about 3 miles away, but it seems to be happening like it's happening right next to us. I would first like to welcome back Anoshi Ansari, an American woman who has flown to the International Space Station as a tourist, and welcome back to solid Earth. And they landed in mid-Russia, and I believe they said within the 56 square mile zone. So good touchdown for her. And I'd also like to mention this is the September issue of Popular Science, September 2006. And there's another woman that wants to go into space. Her name is Rita Anderson, and she's a Southern California, Los Angeles, I believe, real estate agent, and she's going to go into low Earth orbit, and she's going to go not with Virgin Galactic, but another company. They're the ones that are taking old Lear jets, tearing the wings off, tearing the tail off, and replacing them with sturdier wings and a rocket ship tail, and they plan to, for $190,000, take you to suborbital flight. This week also, Richard Branson, Virgin Galactic. Richard, hello. You have released your beautiful proposals for your Spaceship Two. And it's the first time we've seen Spaceship Two, and the real surprise is that it's just like Spaceship One, only bigger. And they have a wonderful picture of the inside of it, and you can find that on the web anywhere. But Richard Branson, he says in it, the article that I read, that he's planning one for every continent on Earth. So imagine 5 or 6 of Richard Branson's space operations going. Now, these people are doing it on their own. NASA has very little to do with it. Now, it doesn't mean I don't like NASA. Everyone thinks I'm bashing NASA all the time. I'd like to say that NASA did a tremendous job this week with their Mars Orbiter 2. Their new Mars Orbiter is, they're just testing, this thing's about the size of a bus, a school bus, and they're just now testing the cameras on it. And I believe that's being run through the University of Arizona. I believe they are the Wildcats. They're in the Pac-10. And as you can see from my hat, I'd like to say, go Bears. Cal is now 4-1, and they're probably going to play the hardest game of the year next week in Berkeley, where they face the Oregon Ducks. So I just have to say that Pac-10 football is probably the best football in the country, in my opinion. Maybe it's not as solid as some of that the Southwestern Conference, Southeastern Conference, whatever, the Southern boys, but they do play like the pros. We have a wonderful quarterback, Nate Longshore, who's he throws 5 or 6 touchdowns a week. Well, I would just like to say that everybody up in Black Rock Desert is finishing up today for Balls 2006, and I actually saw online some pictures that were right off the playa yesterday. It looks like they had a little cloudy conditions, and NASA included. This is going to be an interesting development in the next couple of years. And $190,000, probably there'll be some competition. We can get that down to $100,000 to get in a low Earth orbit. Interesting, though, to get into orbit, you're going to need something more substantial than Spaceship One or Spaceship Two. And I'd just like to say to everyone at Scale Composites, you're probably looking at a bigger spaceship these days to actually get into low Earth orbit, so you can get to the Bigelow Space Hotel. And the last thing I'd like to say is about the March 2006 Aviation Week in Space Technology, and you can get this magazine in any library. I got mine at the library, and on the cover was the picture of the BlackStar project. Now, the BlackStar project had just been decommissioned, they said, and the BlackStar project was an XB-70 modernized with some extra forward canards and fins, and a spaceship sort of like the X-15 on steroids that would hung from its belly. and this secret supersonic aircraft would take off, and it would go very high, and it would drop the parasite spacecraft, and then the engines would be ignited on the spacecraft, and it would fly into orbit to deliver satellites or payloads or space marines, like in Moonraker. And the reason that this was developed is after the Challenger disaster in 1986. The military, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, felt that they couldn't or wouldn't be able to have a reliable method to go to space when they needed to. So they developed secretly, Skunk Works Lockheed develops for them at Area 51 and probably somewhere in California this alternate method to outer space. Now the interesting thing is that they would probably fly this. Let's say they'd fly it over the Pacific, overfly China, and it would come down in England, let's say. And then in England, they would have a giant transport plane that they've... The word is that they took a transport plane, military transport plane, and they built little nacelles, little blisters on the front. You can't see in it, it's all metal. But it was built and changed to accommodate the spaceship. So the BlackStar craft would come down in England, and they would put it back in the cargo plane and fly it back to Area 51. And of course, the mother aircraft would fly back to Area 51 on its own. And this 4-hour overflight of the world is just the minimum that this thing can do. Well, now the BlackStar program, this article said, has been retired. And the only time that the Pentagon really retires a program is if they have another better technology secretly already in place. So some kind of super Aurora system is already in place, in my opinion. Now, if this is the case, and if BlackStar has been decommissioned, can't we give BlackStar to NASA? Now, this already looks like it's better than the space shuttle, and it looks like it's more reliable. And the technology was just been mothballed just recently. So why doesn't NASA go and just pick up Project BlackStar and start flying that? I know that they need more capacity to go to orbit. There's no reason that NASA shouldn't be able to get this recently black project as their interim shuttle. And I'd just like to say, Cal rules and go Bears! And thank you, everybody.